guys, how's it going? It's Al. We are at the point in draft season where I have done enough drafts on both Underdog Fantasy and DraftKings that I have compiled a list. We have all of my ownerships, all of the drafted players that I have at every different position. Now, granted, this is not just going to be from one contest. This is not just the $10 on DraftKings or the $25 Best Ball Mania. This includes my $500 drafts, the $1,000 drafts, the $10 drafts. So it's kind of an aggregate, and where there are different levels of drafting on one site and the other, I'm going to highlight that for you. But typically speaking, my draft rates were very similar across both sites across the board. There were like 3 or 4 players where I went askew, but I'm going to go through and give you 3 of my highest drafted quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 3 tight ends that I have clicked an awful lot this summer to help you prepare for your friends and family leagues. Welcome to the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. There are plenty of videos here to help you get ready with a week and a half left. I know that a lot of you over Labor Day weekend are going to be doing your friends and family league drafts, and you want to know how to beat all of your idiot friends and shove their faces in the mud so that you can walk away with the trophy. And hopefully I can do what I can to help you. So without any further ado, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply down below with who your most drafted players are. And let's go.
He's a legend.
The Week 1 Smiz Gang Listener League rides again. 5,500 entrants, $10 to enter, 3 max. You can get there by going. It's not a lobby game on DraftKings. You have to go to smizzle.tv/links to find the link to the Listener League. And while you're there, you can follow me on Instagram. You can go to the live stream on Twitch and drop a follow there because I stream a ton during NFL season. I can really get to know you better if you do that. And make sure that you join our community Discord. Smizzle.tv/Discord, also involved in that link tree. One-stop shop to get all of the links. I will shout out the winners from the Listener League on the recap video right here on the Fantasy Football channel. And we're going to try and throw a new wrinkle in. And in week 18, we're going to take the first 17 weeks of winners and we're going to do a tournament of champions for the Smiz Gang winners in a single all-out Royal Rumble in week 18. So join the league today. Make sure it fills. It'll get bigger as we go along. Starting with Joe Burrow here for my most drafted quarterbacks. These aren't in order of drafted. These are just guys that I wanted to highlight from my most drafted players. Joe Burrow at 15% of my lineups. Anytime I started a draft where I drafted Jamar Chase, if I had the 2 or the 3 picks, some of them, as you've seen on this channel, if I had the 1 pick, I would do it for the content and go get Jamar Chase. I end up drafting Joe Burrow. If I was to draft Travis Kelce in the first round and somebody sniped Patrick Mahomes for me in the second, I had the out of going to get T. Higgins in the second and then coming back with Joe Burrow in the fourth. So I ended up with an awful lot of Joe Burrow lineups. I'm a big Bengals fan this year, and if he happens to be the MVP, my best ball teams are going to thrive. At 24% across both sites, I have 24% of Daniel Jones, a player that I highlighted as a post 100 ADP target for me as a QB2. I never really want to make my teams around Daniel Jones as my QB1, but I'm totally fine with Daniel Jones as a QB2, knowing that I like elite quarterbacks. I want to get one of those top 7 or 8 guys on my roster as opposed to having 2 guys. The game has done changed. It's just the way that it goes. 1, because of the way that best ball tournaments are, where you want to stack up and have correlation throughout your lineups, and 2, because of how much the game has changed to favor quarterbacks. 5,000 yards and 35 plus touchdowns, not really out of the realm of possibility for these elite guys, where like 10 years ago when we were all drafting late round QBs, you found yourself in a spot where, you know, the band of scoring a quarterback was much thinner. Now, over the course of an entire season in these total points leagues, it's much wider. So if you're going to get a QB2, 1, you want to get an elite QB, as we've said for the last few years, and 2, you should get a running quarterback in there somewhere. So it's funny that Joe Burrow does pair up with somebody like Daniel Jones, who in that offense greatly changed last year. I think they're going to take another step forward this year in New York. Daniel Jones remains too cheap and is on my highest drafted list last year, remains on my highest drafted list this year. Speaking of running quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson has hopped up to about 15% across my allocations on both sites, Underdog Fantasy and DraftKings. So I think that the rushing numbers are going to be ridiculous. I think he may lead the league in terms of quarterback rushing yards. He could challenge for 900 to 1,100 yards rushing. That probably means that he'll have 7 to 12 rushing touchdowns, and all the throwing is going to just be kind of in there. He's being drafted as the QB 11 right now off the board. I'm taking him in the 9th, 10th, or 11th rounds, depending on where he is. Makes for a great number 2 quarterback. Again, I'm an elite QB drafter, so when I get him as my QB2, there are weeks that he's going to have these spike weeks, as well as having a solid enough floor to make it worth your while. I've been drafting a ton of Anthony Richardson, and I'm not too sad about it. Like, it's going to be hard for a quarterback as long as he doesn't get injured, which is the caveat for every player in fantasy football. The rushing yards are going to be there, probably 60 yards a game, 50 to 60 plus yards per game for Richardson is what I believe he's going to have to do as a rookie until he gets to be a little bit more efficient throwing the football. Head over to Establish the Run. Go to smizzle.tv/ETR. Take advantage of our discount for our community. Get everything that they have over there. You get a 10% discount if you're a new subscriber to the site. They have tons of great content, podcasts, articles, projections to help you out with your friends and family leagues, to help you out with your best ball leagues on any site, with different uploadable projections and rankings for those, as well as college football, PGA, great PGA product over there as well, and all of your NFL DFS needs. Some of the best projections in the fantasy game, and a great crew of people putting out that content. So use smizzle.tv/ETR and head over there today, or promo code SmizzLife at checkout. Moving on to the running backs, David Montgomery. I've got 32% David Montgomery. All of you guys know that I tend to either be a 0 RB or hero RB drafter, which leads me to taking a lot of running backs in rounds, let's say 8, 9, 10, 11, and beyond. So my superstar, the guy that I'm hanging my hat on early in these drafts in my running back and chill, bell cow and chill philosophy, leads me to taking guys that are either 40% guys, main guys who are just going too late, where they are one play away, or these players that have goal line potential. Somebody like David Montgomery, who is, most people are projecting to be in that Jamal Williams role from last year, which was highly valuable. The ADP gap between DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams last year was absurd. Swift was going like the end of the 2nd round, maybe beginning of the 3rd round, and Jamal Williams was going like pick 165. It was like the easiest click ever. I think I had 65% of him. I only have 32% David Montgomery, because as the industry grows and time goes along and we get more time to analyze the way that best ball drafts go, that ends up with more efficiency. So what we've seen is we're still getting a high draft choice on Jahmyr Gibbs, who the Lions spent a lot of draft equity to go get. He was going in the 4th round. Now he's up to like the top of the 3rd round. Which is similar to where DeAndre Swift was last year. But David Montgomery is being drafted around pick 80 to 90, which is a lot smaller ADP gap, albeit a very reasonable ADP gap between the one guy and the next. Here's the things that I think are leaning in Montgomery's favor this year. A, Jamal Williams was a loved leader in that clubhouse. He would have cost them less money to keep than going to get David Montgomery on the open market. And they let Jamal Williams walk, knowing all of that, knowing what they had in hand, and then went out and got David Montgomery. When these teams, front offices, and coaching staffs put that rubber stamp on a player, believe that they're going to play him. Yes, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to play. Yes, I think that he's amazing talent. No, I don't think he's going to get 80% of the snaps and touches. And I don't also think that David Montgomery is going to get 0% of the inside the 5 carries. I also don't think that the wide receivers on the Lions are going to fall on the 1-yard line as much as they fell last year. However, this is an offense that's going to put up points. David Montgomery is going to score. And I've got a lot of him because of the touchdown upside, being drafted as a running back 3 through 5 for most of my teams. James Cook is somebody I have different allocations of on both sides. And it's weird, the allocations that I have. I have 26% James Cook on underdog and 14% on DraftKings. But the reason that I have as little on DraftKings as I have is because his ADP has gotten completely out of pocket recently, going in like the 4th and 5th rounds in a lot of drafts. Okay, this is a problem for me. I don't think James Cook needs to be a 5th rounder. I could be very wrong about that. It's entirely possible, right? I'm not 100% accurate at predicting the future. Shocking, I know. But on underdog, where he has stayed, maybe it's because of the full PPR on DraftKings and people get really over anxious and start drafting these pass catching running backs ahead of time. But we haven't seen that with guys like Rashard White. And yes, I know that Rashard White's not on as good an offense as the Buffalo Bills. It's led by Baker Mayfield instead of Josh Allen, but like 4 rounds of difference between Cook and Rashad White seems wrong to me. So I ended up with about 14%. I'm probably not going to get any more James Cook shares on the rest of the drafts I'm going to do on DraftKings between now and kickoff next week anyway, because his ADP is getting out of pocket. On Underdog, it's still manageable. 26% there, 14% on DraftKings. I'm glad that I got what I got, when I got it, and where I got him. Jarek McKinnon, 34% on DraftKings, 18% on Underdog. Not shocking to know that. And again, Jarek McKinnon's ADP is still in the 1-teens. 110 to 125 is where he's going in most drafts on both sites. So it's very easy to get him. And it's not shocking that I have as much Joe Burrow as I have, and also have a lot of Jarek McKinnon because of the week 17 correlation, which is not something that you need to do in your friends and family leagues. It's not something you need to do in a redraft league. It's not something that you need to do in sit and go best ball where it's only one thing. But when you're playing large field best ball, if you're trying to win $1 million on DraftKings or win $3 million on Underdog Fantasy, and you've got to beat out like 1 million people, yeah, you're going to want to have that correlation in the playoff weeks. And Chiefs and Bengals does project to be one of the highest scoring games. So I wanted a lot of parts of that game in and of itself. Ken Walker has really climbed in my own personal opinion. It also fits when I go 0 RB and he's available in the 5th or 6th rounds of drafts because people, again, in my opinion, overreacted to the drafting of Zach Charbonnet. I have 20% Ken Walker, and I think that he is going to crush this year just because of that offense I think is going to be better than most people think. The Seahawks are a very underrated offense. They have a returning quarterback. They have all the same pieces. Losing JSN hurts the offense as a whole because having 3 wide receivers that are, elite talents is better than having 2 wide receivers that are elite talents. But it's not like they went from having 1 to having none. This is a very, very talented team offensively that wants to build around efficient passing and running the football. And they're going to do that with Ken Walker, who I expect is going to play 65% of the snaps this year. Not going to be very involved in the passing game, but could rack up an awful lot of touchdowns. Could outdo that 10 that he scored last year. 12 to 15 certainly in play for Ken Walker. T. Higgins, 38% T. Higgins for me on Underdog, 22% on DraftKings. Again, I stack. I look for week 17 correlation. You're starting to notice a theme throughout these drafts. I have more T. Higgins than I have Jamar Chase because it's easier to get T. Higgins than it is to get Jamar Chase. You have to get one specific draft pick in order to get Jamar Chase. You can draft anywhere and get T. Higgins in the second round. You're going to go 1, 2, or 3 to get Chase. You can pick anywhere from 18 through 24 and then T. Higgins, and sometimes get him to fall into the third round as well. You know him, you love him, you know what he can do. If Jamar Chase is there, he's probably one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league, top 5 for sure. We'll see if they sign him long term, if they can hold this team together. But for right now, they're together, and it's good enough. And if Jamar Chase does go down, Higgins will see more volume, but I think that this team does better when all of them are active. So not hoping for that. Rashard Bateman, coming back from an injury, was a massive difference maker last year. We know what Monken does. They throw the ball a lot. They play really fast, which is going to be a massive departure from everything that you know Baltimore Ravens offense to be. This team is going to play fast paced. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And the games that Rashard Bateman was healthy, this offense looked a lot more dynamic than the games that he missed. With Lamar healthy, Bateman healthy, and the addition of Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham Jr. and the return of Mark Andrews and the depth with Isaiah Likely, I think that this offense goes absolutely nuts. I have 24% Rashard Bateman pretty much across both sites. Love him this year, especially as ADP. Another player I love at ADP, as highlighted on my round 1 through 10 favorite drafted guys. Not shocking to see Courtland Sutton here. I have 16% Courtland Sutton across all drafts. A lot of that is correlated with my Chargers plays that I have. Again, because of the week 17 matchup with them. The ADP gap from Judy to Sutton. Judy has been a do not draft all preseason for me because I can't buy Judy in the mid 30s, but Courtland Sutton is sitting there in the mid 90s. So I've clicked an awful lot of Courtland Sutton this year. His ADP will probably be climbing because of the injury to Judy. I know Judy's fallen into the 50s at this point, but Sutton's still available in the 8th round of most drafts. Isaiah Hodgins. This one correlates with my Daniel Jones percentages. I have got 16% Hodgins across both sites. Very easy to click Daniel Jones as a QB2. Hodgins going in like the 150s, 160s. Super easy correlation for a guy who looked really good when given an opportunity at this back half of last year. And for, again, an ADP of like 150 to 175 on any site, easy click when you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback. Moving on to tight end. There's a lot of argument about whether or not TJ Hawkinson can pay off his ADP. I sure hope he does, because I have 31% of TJ Hawkinson in my drafts. When I go 0 running back, and I've pinged a lot of wide receivers early, every time that I have Justin Jefferson, I've gone out and gotten TJ Hawkinson. It's very easy for me to click him. I'm a believer, and it's not a believer in TJ Hawkinson and his individual talent. Yes, he is a talented player. It's a belief in what happened after the trade. These were his numbers, yo-yoing up and down, inconsistent usage when on the Lions after the trade. Very consistent usage, very consistent. 10 targets at the end of the season, 16, 12 in an offense that had Justin Jefferson. Yes, they added Addison on the other side. No, this defense is not any good. A lot of shootouts possible here. Not going to go out on a limb and say that Minnesota is 100% a carnival, but they sure were for us last year. And TJ Hawkinson fits with what Kirk Cousins likes to do with the football. I think that we're looking at a tight end who could end the season as the tight end one. I do like to get elite tight ends on my team because they give you that difference. It's a big change to expect, well, I'm going to draft 3 tight ends late, and all of them are going to have a fantasy points per game of like 6, 7, 8 fantasy points a game. And maybe I'll catch some spike weeks in there, or being able to chalk in 13.8 over the course of the season, but that was much bigger late with massive possibility for spike weeks here at 38.9. That is what ends up happening to my teams, is that I love having these elite tight ends. I also like to correlate. So when I've got Justin Jefferson and I move to a TJ Hawkinson, I get Addison later and pair them with Kirk Cousins, likely as a QB2 on those teams. There's a lot of things that you can do with a team like that, and that's why I like that build. Chig Okonkwo. I don't know who's going to be the downfield threat for Tennessee, but my bet is that it's going to be Chig Okonkwo, because DeAndre Hopkins, not a guy who's tear the ceiling off. Treylon Burks, not a guy who's a tear. These are all guys who operate in the first 15 yards. Yeah, Hopkins can catch some deep balls, but like, it's usually off of a double move. It's not a guy to move safeties, where Okonkwo can get down the seam. We saw him have a massive average yards per catch, a tight end with a long of 20, 28, 41, 41, 31, 48. He's a difference maker down the field, and we saw him play a lot more than people were projecting during the preseason. So my 17% Chig Okonkwo, I'm pretty happy with at this point. Usually being drafted as a tight end too. I think he's going around the 12th or 13th round in most drafts. And the cover boy at 19%, Travis Kelce. Having 20% of one player in the first round is a lot. Again, I like drafting elite tight ends. And again, you saw how much at 13.6 TJ Hawkinson was in the 5th round. I know he's 34 years old. Everybody's waiting for the off-ramp. They've been waiting for 3 years. And for 3 years, go back on the channel and look at the last 3 years. These existed on my main channel a couple of years ago. Every year, Travis Kelce is in my most drafted list. Every single year for the past 3 years. Because all the other teams are waiting for the off-ramp. Oh, he's over 30 years old. Oh, he's 31 years old. Oh, he's 32 years old. Oh, he's going to turn 34 this year. Okay. What other tight end's going to get 25% of the target market share from the best quarterback of all time through the first 6 years of his career? At some point in time, Father Time is going to come and claim Travis Kelce. He is undefeated, is Father Time. But last year wasn't that year. And 2021 wasn't that year. 2020 isn't that year. And as you can see by my allocation, my money is firmly on 2023 not being that year as well. One of these years it'll catch him. Right now, I think he's still a value. It allows me to correlate through Patrick Mahomes, T. Higgins, get a fantastic week 17 stack with a whole lot of upside, and hopefully that can be the separator that changes my lineups and carries me to the playoffs and beyond. So I wish you the best of luck in your friends and family and best ball drafts this year. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.